evening, fighters, and welcome to the 19th episode of the True North Fighters podcast. I'm Pharaoh,
And I'm Wolfpack reporting for duty.
and boy, do we have a bunch of tournament news for all of you. Now, just over this last week, really this weekend, the weekend just passing, my bad. We had the combo breaker tournament that was held in Schaumburg, Illinois. And, oh boy, do we have a number of results just for you guys live.
That we do, yeah. So, before we get to the tournaments, my apologies for cutting you off there. But before we get started, just want to put this out here. Shamaro is not joining us for this recording. Unfortunately, he came down with a cold and he's in the process of recuperating. So, this episode is going to be a bit shorter than normal. It's basically just going to be tournament coverage. And then we also have a couple quick things that we'll talk about as well towards the end. Our usual stuff will be done later on in the week. So, for those of you who are missing some Shamaro content right now, fear not, because he will be back better than ever in our next episode. So just wanted to put that out there before we get to tournament results from Combo Breaker. So with that said, there were a total of, I believe, nearly 25 different tournaments going down over the span of 3 days for Combo Breaker. And I mean, no wonder, since it's one of the largest fighting game tournaments in North America, next to, EVO, obviously. And while we were not able to cover every single one of them, we did cover quite a few, especially the finals brackets that took place on the Sunday. So that being May 26th, this past Sunday. So that out of the way, I will lead us off. This is going to be very interesting. Pardon my So first we'll start off with the closing tournament, actually, and that was Tekken 8, the first Combo Breaker event for this brand new game. Came out back in January, was it January or February? No, it was late January.
So late January.
Yes, we're coming up on almost 6 months post-launch. And so this tournament closed, the tournament finals for Tekken 8 closed out the entire event. Taking home the win was none other than AK from the Philippines, as he took down our previous Tekken World Tour champion Arslan Ash 3-2 in the grand finals. It was a battle between Shaheen and Nina Williams. Holy smokes, what a grand finals that was. I mean, Arslan Ash, he ended up starting in the loser's side of the bracket anyways, and he pretty much clawed his way through the loser's bracket into the grand finals. Whereas with AK, he had it pretty easy, took out Rangchu 2-1 in the winner's semis, then took down Farzin 3-1 in the winner's finals, before taking down Arslan Ash 3-2 in the grand finals. Again, that's some good ass Tekken right there to close out the event. And there were a total of 1,633 players who registered for the Tekken 8 tournament. They were able to narrow that down to the top 8, and that was how it all went. It's Tekken. What else could you possibly ask for, right? So, man, what a way to end an event like Combo Breaker with some good-ass Tekken, where we got to see the very best of the best throw down for the opportunity to win a huge chunk of that $22,000 prize pool. So, congrats to AK, Arslan Ash, and Farzin, who all got a podium spot. And a special honorable mention, too, to John Ding, who placed 4th in the tournament finals and was using both Eddie and Reina, whereas with Farzin, we saw him maining Victor, and then, of course, Arslan Ash with Nina, AK with Shaheen. So, lots of crazy stuff happening on the Tekken end there. For the 2024 Tekken World Tour circuit, just absolutely mind-blowing. I gotta tell you, that was probably one of the coolest Tekken tournaments that I have ever seen. And so with that, I'll throw it over to Pharaoh. We're going to be alternating back and forth here, so just letting you guys know. So, Pharaoh, what was next over the course of the weekend for Combo Breaker?
Well, obviously, since we started off with the AAA title, we may as well continue on the AAA title train with Street Fighter 6.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this was definitely an interesting and a well-fought tournament for, a first place prize. I mean, obviously, between you and I, we'd both love to enter one of those one day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But, of course, the winner of the Street Fighter 6 tournament was none other than the American competitor El Chacote, who easily went through the winner's bracket, defeating Zaka Nabox 3-0, and then defeating a fellow American, Noah the Prodigy, 3-2. Now, Noah the Prodigy did go from there to the losers finals, where he beat Dual Kevin 3-2, but unfortunately he would not be able to recuperate, attempt to, what's the word for it? No. Oh, I forgot the word I wanted to say.
It's all good. I think we were.
There we go.
We were catching on.
Redo. He did not get the redo, but losing to El Chacote 3-1. But you have to give all of the competitors a lot of credit. They all did very well.
Damn right. That was crazy.
I'm gonna give a little thing to Jack, who finished 4th. I know about what the heck's been going on with Moist Esports and all their stuff, but I'm very happy that they at least got somebody from that team into a tournament. With all things considered, that's been going on apparently with customs or something.
Damn straight, man.
It's unfortunate.
True, but you know what? A W is still a W, no matter which way you slice it.
So congratulations.
Hell yeah.
Well,
man.
Since we covered that, we covered Tekken and Street Fighter. What's next on the list?
Well, since we're talking about AAA titles, let's also throw in another well-known one, Mortal Kombat. I mean, come on. Even if you're not a fan of Mortal Kombat, you know what Mortal Kombat is all about. This was very important because Combo Breaker was the penultimate stop for the 2023-24 season of Mortal Kombat Pro Competition, as now the world's greatest fighters are now heading towards Toronto, Ontario, Canada for Final Combat, the last stop on the Pro Comp schedule. And I gotta say, man, I was blown away by what we ended up seeing for the MK1 tournament. So, taking it all was Nicholas from Chile, who rocked this whole tournament with none other than everyone's favorite Hollywood martial arts film star, Johnny Cage. He was maining the heck out of Johnny Cage just to give you guys an idea of what it was like for Nicholas to make it into the grand finals. It was it was pretty easy for the most part, but there was still a bit of a challenge. He actually swept the winners semifinals against the mighty Unjust from the United States, sent him down to the losers bracket, and then won 3-2 against Ninja Killa. I mean, man, to go from a clean sweep to almost a reverse sweep. Like that's just nuts. And ultimately, Mighty Unjust ended up placing 4th in the event, maining Peacemaker. Very interesting choice there. And Ninja Killa was switching back and forth throughout the tournament between Johnny Cage, Peacemaker, and Liu Kang. So, on the other side of the bracket, we have one of the most prolific players in the fighting game scene, Mr. Sonic Fox himself. On the loser side of the bracket, Sonic Fox went up 3-1 over Scorpion Prox, and then beat Bandinos also 3-1, eliminated Mighty Unjust from the tournament again from a score of 3-1, and then unfortunately sent Ninja Killa home 3-2 in the losers finals, therefore punching his ticket to grand finals. Unfortunately, it was just not enough, as Nicholas defeated Sonic Fox 3-2 in the grand finals. And get this, throughout the tournament, Sonic Fox was maining 4 different characters. 4 different characters. He went back and forth between Sindel, Ermac, Omni-Man, and to my surprise, Nitara, which is absolutely friggin' crazy. Those are all, well, at least half of those anyways are wild cards, I'll tell you that much. Especially, Omni-Man and Nitara. I mean, Omni-Man, wild card for obvious reasons. He's not going to be that much of a wild card for much longer, considering that Homelander is going to be coming to MK1 very, very soon, and we will briefly address that towards the end. And as far as Nitara is concerned, I mean, there still is quite a bit of significant fan backlash for Nitara because of the fact that she is voiced by Megan Fox in the game, which is not exactly the most popular opinion. I mean, in the previous game in MK11, people were hating on the fact that Sonya Blade was being voiced by Ronda Rousey, and to be fair, I actually thought that Ronda did a decent job on voicing Sonya, but I mean, people were essentially saying that there were hundreds of individuals who could have been a better voice for Nitara than Megan Fox. To an extent, I agree with it, but at the same time, it's been a while now since the game was released, and I've just kind of come to accept it. Megan Fox, not the best choice, but I wouldn't necessarily say she's the worst choice, voice wise. But I digress before I, go on a bit of a rant there. So again, just to reiterate, Nicholas from Chile beats Sonic Fox from the United States, and in third place, Ninja Killa. Special mention to Mighty Unjust, who finished 4th place in the tournament. Unfortunately, there were no Canadians in the top 8, much like with Tekken 8, and that's just the way things go sometimes. I mean, the majority of esports tournaments for the fighting game scene generally happen in the United States, and Americans make up a significant portion of the players who enter the esports scene. So, it makes sense, but at the same time, sometimes we Canadians got to show the rest of the world that, we're just as good as, we're just as good as the American players, right? So, with all that said, we'll send it back to Pharaoh, who's got another AAA tournament to cover here.
You would be indeed correct. And the next tournament I think we should cover here would be King of Fighter 15.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we had a very diverse cast, or sort of. We have representatives from 3 countries compete, which is the most that we've seen, at least in the few that we've already covered. And the winner of this tournament was representing the Tengu X crew, Violent Kane.
There we
Violent
go.
Kane went through a little bit of a he did very well in the winners semifinals, facing Rylander and defeating 2-0. Though things took a turn for the worse when Waro Asamiya defeated Violent Kane 3-1, which then prompted him to go back to take on Koopa in the losers finals, and thankfully winning 3-2. And then we had an all Mexico grand finals where it was a repeat of where it was a rematch of the winners finals. However, Violent Kane came out on top this time, defeating Waro Asamiya in 2 different sets, winning both 3-2 and 3-1. Yes. Violent Kane finished in first, Waro Asamiya in second, Koopa in third, and Rylander in fourth. Funny enough, Mexico took all 3 spots on the podium. I have to say, congratulations, Mexico. Your players have served your country proudly.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, I was not expecting to see Asamiya and Kane back in the grand finals, but I mean, you once you've watched enough of these tournaments, you start to notice different patterns happening, and like this was just another one of those instances where the other side of the bracket just so happens to be someone who originally started on the winner's side. So, we've seen it so many times, anything can happen essentially.
It's of course true. What other tournaments do we have to cover?
Well, this next one is probably by far one of my highlights from Combo Breaker Weekend. There was a tournament for Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Now, I have not played this game in ages, but man, I was overly thrilled and overly impressed by everybody who made it into the top 8. Spoiler alert, this was an all-American top 8, by the way. And so the winner of that was none other than Liberal Terminator, who utilized a team comprised of Nova, Spencer, and Dr. Doom. Holy smokes, man. Absolutely crazy. He took down Evasion in the grand finals, who was maining Zero, Dante, and Virgil. Holy cow. An all Capcom team right there. You got Mega Man and Devil May Cry in the same team. Good lord. And those 3, oh my god. I can't even. There's no words. There's no amount of words I can use to describe how incredible that team is. And like I've built some decent teams over, the years of my casual playing of Ultimate Marvel 3, but not once did it ever cross my mind to ever think of putting Zero, Dante, and Virgil all on the same team. Absolutely insane. But you know what? It brought Evasion a lot of good luck. Finished in the 2nd spot overall. So kudos to Evasion there. Taking the 3rd spot on the podium was Remora, who utilized a team of Zero, Dr. Doom, and Virgil. This really surprised me. There were a lot of people who were using Dr. Doom and Virgil over the course of the tournament. As I was watching on Sunday, like literally just to pass the time, I pretty much watched the entirety of the top 32 and saw that go down into the top 16, and then there was a bit of a break in the action before the top 8 aired. And yeah, the amount of Dr. Dooms and Virgils that I ended up seeing was just like through the roof. Absolutely through the roof. I don't know anything about any of the tier lists for Ultimate Marvel 3, but with the amount of times I saw those two characters in competition, something tells me they're probably top tier characters. Like to me there's no other explanation you could possibly give for seeing Doctor Doom and Virgil that many times throughout the day in the top 32, top 16, and then, of course, into the top 8. Want to give a shout out to Ray Ray. He finished 4th in the tournament and utilized a very unique team of Magneto, Doctor Doom, and Sentinel, going with an all Marvel team for the tournament. Just, oh my goodness, Ray Ray put up a hell of a fight. Unfortunately, just wasn't enough to get him into the grand finals. All four of these guys, Liberal, Evasion, Remora, Ray, they all did an incredible job, as well as all the other players that were in the top 32, the players who made it into the top 16, and of course, those who made it into the top 8. Honestly, like I said at the start, the tournament for Ultimate Marvel 3 definitely my highlight, my secondary highlight next to the Tekken 8 tournament. And what say you, Pharaoh? Would you consider the Ultimate Marvel 3 tournament to be a highlight for you?
Oh, absolutely. I don't remember specifically which match that it was involved in, but I remember there was a combo that nearly reached 300 hits, which also resulted in a perfect match.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, like with a game like Ultimate Marvel 3, like even though that this game has not had like any like support done for it or like updates like new content and stuff like that, even though it hasn't had stuff like that for many years, the game is still broken, but like in the best ways possible, because you can experiment with your team compositions, and it opens up the fact that, okay, let me back up here. The fact that Ultimate Marvel 3's roster is so huge not only opens up so many more options for team composition, but it also opens up that many more options for combos and stuff like that. Like, you can go from having a combo begin on the ground to extending that into an aerial combo, and then bringing it down into extending it with your supers and stuff like that. And as we saw, those supers, they do a lot of damage and they dish out a lot of hits. As Pharaoh just mentioned, there was at one point a combo, if I remember correctly, I believe it racked up almost, I think it was close to 270 hits, which I believe was just about enough for a perfect KO. I myself don't remember what match it was either, but oh my god, the combo potential has never been greater than what we saw in Ultimate Marvel 3. So, huge congratulations to everybody who entered the tournament in the first place. Huge congrats to everyone who made it into the top 32 and made it onwards, as well as those who unfortunately did get eliminated from the top 32 and from the top 16. Nonetheless, definitely one of the most adrenaline-filled, high-octane tournaments. And we're not done yet either. We got a couple more that we're going to cover here. So, Pharaoh, take it away, my friend.
All right, now to continue with this, with the next stop on our little on our tour of, we have Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising. Now, this had a larger number of entrants, albeit not as much as Tekken 8 or Street Fighter 6, having with GBFR having 674 different players. Now, the one who ended up winning it all, our American Zippy, who made near the entire tournament.
Holy smokes.
Unfortunately, having to defeat our fellow countryman. Have a nice day.
Yeah. I mean, at least, thankfully, we did have a Canadian in there.
My bad.
Oh,
I am
man.
sorry. It is correction. It is the second place the runner-up Beepaw, who made both Near and Fairy, who is the one who defeated Have a Nice Day.
There we go.
My apologies on the air.
All good.
Zippy ended up having to go through Beepaw not once, but twice. First meeting in the winners' finals, with Zippy winning 3 rounds to 2. But then, once again in the grand finals, after Beepaw took out Aaron DeMack 3-2, the tournament, the finals would end up getting restarted. I cannot recall for what specific reason. But Zippy ended up winning the last of the 2, 3 rounds to 1.
Boy, oh boy, that was a crazy top 8. I'll tell you that much.
Of course, you also have to give credit to where the other players where it is due. Aaron DeMack, who finished in 3rd, and Blue Sky BSG, who finished in 4th.
Oh yeah.
And our little special shout out to our Canadian countryman. Have a Nice Day, who finished in 6th.
Yeah, it sucks that Have a Nice Day wasn't able to make it further in the tournament, but I mean, hey, a win's a win. We had a Canadian in the top 8. Like, I'm happy with that. And you know what? I did also notice as well, in some of the side tournaments, there were a significant number of Canadians competing in those. Unfortunately, we did not get around to covering any of the side tournaments, unfortunately, as we had a lot on our plates respectively, with how many different tournaments were going on at Combo Breaker. But nonetheless, I will repeat it again. A win is a win. We had a Canadian in the top 8. Like, that's one for the record books. I'll tell you that.
Needless to say, 25 tournaments is just simply too many for 3 people to cover simultaneously.
Yep, exactly, man, exactly.
All right, now that we've gotten that one out of the way, Wolf, you still got another one.
Yep.
What do we got this time?
Well, to close out our tour of tournaments, this one is a very interesting one. This was one that Chamorro actually covered. Them's Fightin' Herds. For those who don't know, this is essentially a game that was inspired by My Little Pony, essentially. And it gained so much traction and enough people wanted to see it become a game that it actually did become one. And it's really surprised me just how big the competitive scene is for this game. Like, it's crazy. And the fact that it was featured on a platform as big as Combo Breaker really, really, really speaks volumes about the fan base. Now, to be fair, I know absolutely nothing about this game. This is right up Chamorro's wheelhouse. But nonetheless, I do have the tournament results from the top 8 here, so I'll go through them right here, right now. The winner was Zale 101 of the United States of America. Another spoiler alert, this was another All-American bracket. Zale 101 utilized Oleander to pick up the win and defeated Solarnia, I believe is how you pronounce their name, who was maining Velvet through this match. Building up to this, both Zale and Solarnia started in the winner's side of the bracket. Both of them won their respective matches 2-0, and then went on to face each other in the winner's finals. Zale swept that one 3-0, putting Solarnia down into the losers' finals They beat Marshmello 3-0 to secure their spot in the grand finals. And as Pharaoh mentioned before in a previous tournament, yes, this is another one of those instances where the grand finals matchup is a rematch of the winners finals. And so Zale 101 took that one 3-1 over Solarnia. Marshmello was using Texas, and our fourth place finisher was Goth Oppression, who was maining Palm for this tournament. So again, I know absolutely nothing about this series, but I decided to take it upon myself to fill in for Shamaro in regards to this tournament because again, this is one of his favorites. And it just felt right that we needed to get one of his tournaments in here. So I'm sure he'll definitely enjoy the fact that we covered it. So overall, huge congratulations to Zale, Solarnia, and Marshmello for finishing on the podium. Goth Oppression getting a special shout out. Fourth place finish. They did really, really well. And then, of course, for the bottom four as well, Michael B. Outsider, Virtual Rays, Poco, and Umbra, who all finished in the lower half of the top 8. So, pretty much, like, our mini tour tournament coverage here pretty much sums up exactly what Combo Breaker was all about this year. So much going on, so many thrilling tournaments. The biggest names in the fighting game community coming together, converging on Schaumburg, Illinois for one of the grandest fighting game tournaments in North America. So that is going to do it for the tournament coverage. But before we wrap up the episode, we do have a few tidbits of information that Pharaoh and I are going to briefly go over. And Pharaoh, I'll let you start off this time.
All right, so I'm pretty sure, as you all know, Multiversus has only just relaunched starting yesterday.
Yep, at least at the time of recording. At least at the time of recording.
At the time of our recording, it released yesterday, and it just makes me think. How is it going to do now? After about a year of inactivity, how do you think the community is going to react?
Well, from what I've seen so far, people seem to be pretty happy with what they're seeing. Gameplay certainly seems to be a big positive. Obviously, those who played the beta, they know what's going on. They've been there, done that. They've been along for the ride between the closure of the beta servers and then, of course, to the relaunch, which happened yesterday. I personally did not get the opportunity to play the beta, but I have played the game in its relaunched state, and I gotta be honest, I'm actually very, very impressed. It is a platform fighter, very similar to Super Smash Bros. A lot of people have gone on record saying that it's nothing more than a clone, but through what I've seen, it may seem like a clone, but I think it's done enough that it stands out as its own game within the same category. The only gripe that I actually have with this game right now is the number of fighters that you can actually select right from the get-go. Right now, from my understanding, when the beta servers were still open, you could actually play as anyone from the full roster, which I believe is probably 25 characters, I think. But when I booted the game up, there were only a small handful of characters. And when I say a small handful, I literally mean a handful. There were 5 characters altogether that are playable from the start. But then what I realized is that that number gets even smaller because of those 5 characters, 3 of them are rotating characters. So if I remember this correctly, the rotating characters would be Wonder Woman. I believe Jake from Adventure Time is a rotating fighter, and there's one other. I think it's, I want to say Bugs Bunny. I think it's those 3: Wonder Woman, Jake, and Bugs Bunny. Those 3 are rotating characters. The only characters that you can actually play right from the get-go who are not rotating characters are LeBron James from Space Jam: A New Legacy, and Shaggy, who is the quote-unquote protagonist of Multiverses. And the rest of the characters are locked behind a virtual paywall where you can either spend 1,000 of the premium currency Gleamium, which you would have to spend real world money on to get in the first place, or you can get those characters at 3,000 fighter currency apiece. 3,000 apiece, like that's pretty steep. Especially considering the fact that that's basically the majority of the roster locked behind a virtual paywall. Like, you can't play as Batman, you can't play as Superman, you can't play as Joker, you can't play as Finn the dog, you can't play as Harley Quinn, like you can't play as Velma, you can't play as Aquaman. Like, you literally cannot play any of these characters unless you grind out the game with either one of the permanent characters or one of the rotating characters. So the fact that the game went from having everyone unlocked from the get-go to having only 2 characters permanently unlocked and 3 others being rotating, it's a huge downgrade. It's a huge downgrade, and especially for those who played the beta version, I think that's definitely going to turn them away from the game. I can say that much.
I can argue that I agree with that. It's, I don't mean to be mean to Warner Brothers here, but that's a pretty boneheaded move to try to make.
Yeah,
at least with Super Smash Brothers, you have to fight so many battles, or complete an achievement to unlock a character.
Yeah, and not only that,
you start out with 8.
Yeah, and I mean, at least with obtaining characters, like, the only time you ever had to shell out, like, actual real-world money was for the Fighter's Pass. That's it. There was no virtual currency paywall for these characters in Smash Bros. So it's really, really weird. But I will say this, again, it's only been a day since the game released. So, you know what, I would probably give it maybe a couple weeks, probably a month at the most, and we'll see if any changes are made to making more characters available to play from the start, because it's pretty disheartening, the fact that you only get such a limited number of characters to use, and like half of those characters are rotating characters. So, like, assuming that the rotation is weekly, we can go from having Wonder Woman, Jake, Jake and Bugs Bunny, to maybe having Velma, Harley Quinn, and let's say Marvin the Martian. So, like, it's really strange, but before I go on a rant, those are just my initial thoughts on Multiverses. Like I just said, it's only been a day at the time of recording, so let's give the game some time, and we'll essentially go from there. Another thing that we should cover very quickly, since we are running low on time here, we did get a gameplay trailer for Tekken 8's next DLC character, the Prime Minister of Poland, Lydia Sobieska. And oh my goodness, she was so much fun to play in Tekken 7. I am very much looking forward to playing her again in Tekken 8. She's going to be coming out sometime in the summer. But Pharaoh, just really quickly, what were your thoughts on that gameplay reveal for a completely new original character in the form of Lydia Sobieska?
I have to admit, she was a great character to have in Tekken 7. I mean, of course, there was the nerfs and everything, and that kind of didn't help. But I am surprised to see that Bandai Namco has decided to return her to the roster to another game. Well, it's nice to have it all done. It's nice to include as many representatives of other countries as many as possible. But it's nice to have her back once again.
Definitely, and you know what? Even with the nerfs, a lot of people still enjoy playing Lydia in T7. So, to me, that kind of felt like a very obvious choice for being DLC after Eddie Gordo, who is already released, and he's now available for purchase. So, Lydia being our next DLC character, she's going to be coming out in the summer. That is going to change the game completely. We still have 2 more characters left to be revealed. One will be coming out in the fall of this year, and the other in the winter, either December of this year, or at the very least, it'll probably be sometime in January of next year. One last thing to cover before we wrap things up is that earlier today, NetherRealm Studios released the official gameplay trailer for Homelander from The Boys. He is the 5th DLC character from the first combat pack that is going to be added into the game. We already got more looks at our final cameo for Combat Pack 1, which is Farah, who previously appeared in Mortal Kombat X, but oh my goodness. They did Homelander so good in this gameplay trailer, even though that they didn't get Anthony Starr to voice him. So I gotta ask you, Pharaoh, who do you think would come out on top? Would it be Homelander or would it be Omni-Man? Who do you think would come out on top between those two?
Now, admittedly, I haven't really seen The Boys at all, as I've only heard about this maybe about 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah, that's fair.
But honestly, I would have to go with it's a hard choice.
Well, I mean, both of them both of them like to fight dirty, so it really comes down to who can fight dirtier than the other, essentially.
If it's by that metric, I have to go with Homelander on this one.
Yeah, probably, because I mean, like, Homelander, he fights so dirty. He's like the guy that would end up saying, "Oh no, you got me," and then like sucker punches you in the gut, or says that he's gonna surrender, only to then use like little kids as a human shield, like that.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, like that. That definitely seems like the Homelander that people know and love so well. He's like a super dirty fighting version of Superman, essentially.
I don't mean to make a jab here at Ric Flair, but I guess the dirtiest fighter in the game has a bit of competition.
You know what? I don't blame you for saying that, man. I don't blame you, not at all.
That is a new low. I don't even think he would go.
I don't think so. No. But I mean, this is Mortal Kombat, man. Anything can happen. So, he's going to be coming out next week, actually, June 4th. So that is going to be next Tuesday. And of course, that is coming off of the final week of Season 5 content for Mortal Kombat 1. So if any of you have not finished Invasions mode for the Season of Storms and have not obtained Raiden's Dark Skin yet, make sure that you do so before the season wraps up. And yeah, with that, that's actually going to wrap up this episode. We are going to have lots more to talk about when Shamaro comes back. But until then, I'm Wolfpack signing off.
I'm Pharaoh, also signing off. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we hope for you to listen to us again next week and in the future too.
Yep, exactly. Your support means everything to us. Tell your friends, tell your siblings, tell your pets. I don't care who you tell it to. Just tell them to give us a listen, and we'll go from there. So, on behalf of K9 Calamity and for the True North Fighters podcast, fight on. We will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.